Travis Touchdown is back in the limelight. Thanks to the sudden announcement and immediate release of No More Heroes 1 and 2 on Switch, there's a whole lot more people experiencing this cult classic for the first time. And it's a prime time to get into the series, with No More Heroes 3 launching in 2021, which was announced with a killer anime trailer last year. So, here's 5 things you need to know about No More Heroes. One constant over the last 10 years of interviews with Suda51 is how much Smash Bros gets brought up. He's constantly been asked about it and has responded that he'd love to see Travis Touchdown appear as a fighter. He had actually talked to Sakurai about it before, but it never goes anywhere. He promised in one interview that the next time they talk, he wouldn't let him get away. And then this continued for a decade. A decade of hints and hopes, until suddenly, Suda's answers turned into no comment, which was kind of surprising, because as it turns out, this year Travis was added to Smash Bros as a DLC Mii Fighter costume. Like many fans, he'd hoped for a proper fighter rather than just a costume, but after all this time, I think he's happy just to be included. When they first started development on No More Heroes, the plan was initially to create it for the Xbox 360, which had an image of being the console for hardcore gamers. But Suda51's producer suggested making it for the Wii instead. The logic was that there's a load of family games on there, so maybe players would want a break to play something different. But what sealed the deal was Suda51's first experience with the Wiimote, and he became so enamored with it that he had motion controls be a big part of the game. And when he was asked about No More Heroes 3, he said he'd make it for whatever console Nintendo released next, although technically he ended up skipping a generation and it's now being made for the Switch. Travis Touchdown isn't exactly what you'd expect from a Japanese game protagonist, and as you might have noticed, he's heavily inspired by the TV and film star Johnny Knoxville. Kind of like Knoxville if he was an otaku. Both his look and attitude are based on Knoxville's appearances in Jackass. And what's more, the map is based on West Coast America, and basically it's such an entirely different vibe from any other title like it. In fact, to get the rest of the developers on the same page, he would constantly show them a clip of Knoxville's nipple being bitten off by a baby alligator. For him, this is how he would get them to understand who Travis Touchdown was meant to be. Suda51 has a bit of an obsession with toilets in regards to No More Heroes. One of the key parts of every single game is that the player sits on the toilet to save the game. When asked if this was the case for the spin-off title Travis Strikes Again, Suda51 replied by saying, "Of course." To celebrate the release of the first game in Japan, they gave out branded toilet paper, and Ubisoft did the same for US players when they released No More Heroes 2. But the origin of this was just that, for Suda51, that was where he got all of his ideas, while sitting on the toilet. Travis Strikes Again was set to be a smaller title than your regular No More Heroes title, something Suda51 had mentioned as being one of the ways the games industry was changing, since not everything had to be a big budget release to impress. And so this title was made with a much smaller team and much smaller ambitions, and he wanted to celebrate other titles that were made in the same way. The original idea was to have a bunch of levels inspired by different indie games, but the amount of communication involved would have been incredibly difficult. Instead, they stuck with making a Hotline Miami level due to Suda's close relationship with the developer. And then, as a consolation for the rest of them, he featured a bunch of other indie games on in-game t-shirts instead. Thanks for watching OTAQUEST in Japan. Feel free to subscribe to find out more about the art and creation of Japanese pop culture.